10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is Mack Truck, aka Because of Man, aka Your One Night Man. This is Mack Truck, aka Because of Man, aka Your One Night Man. Do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better. Dr. Maya Angelou. Welcome in. You're back. We're back. It's another edition of the Mack Truck Podcast here. I'm not going to say live, but live in a sense, I suppose, from the home studio here at the house in beautiful Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa to be exact. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Mackenzie Brooks, aka Thee Mack Truck, aka your worst nightmare. Got a long docket, but only a short amount of time. Going to be recapping some stuff I was going to talk about last show, but due to our events that we had this past weekend, we did do video pods via my sports page. So if you missed the video pod, I highly suggest you go back and rewatch some of those. We talked about at that point, we're talking about the Texas-Michigan game with myself and Big E.B. Thunder Bradfield himself. This broadcast is brought to you, obviously, by 1/3 of the three-man weave that is E.B. Evan Thunder Bradfield and the In My Bag apparel and customs line. Also brought to you by none other than the Three-Man Weave podcast itself with E.B., C.B. the Bully, and Big D Money himself. You can find those guys on Spotify, YouTube, and wherever else you get your audio streaming pleasure. Also brought to you by the newest show by myself, Thee Mack Truck, and Evan Thunder, E.B. Bradfield himself, called Pass the Rock. Second episode comes out tomorrow. We will be talking all things football, NFL, college, our famous line of Pay That Man, and then our top snack for the week. And frankly, outside of the sports, obviously the snack segment is my favorite segment and subject. So if you know me, you know what that's about. Also brought to you by the 806 Sports Radio Show and the Sip Off, both hosted and co-hosted by Megan Price, the Queen of Hoops herself. You can find both of her shows on Facebook Live and StreamYard. Make sure you're liking, following, sharing, and subscribing to that. Also brought to you by Chop It Up with P. Scott Prescott Kelly. Listen, I don't care how many times I gotta say it. I love me some of the Queen of Hoops, Megan Price. Love me some P. Scott. P. Scott is one of the GOATs out here in this realm as far as podcasting and sports knowledge and such. Also brought to you by his friend's podcast, the State of the Union podcast. You can find, I believe, also on Spotify, Facebook, and wherever else you get your audio streaming pleasure. Also brought to you by Patton That Whiskey, the exotic whiskey blend from Daniel and Jen Patton, and also the official whiskey liquor sponsors of the Mack Truck Podcast. Also brought to you by CCR Webflow and Design. Without a badass logo, we don't have a show. So big shout out to Camilo Rodriguez. You can find him on Facebook with a simple Facebook search of his name, or you can internet search CCR Webflow and Design. That's ccr.webflow.io for all your logo needs, design needs, website needs, you name it, he's got it. Also brought to you by Freddie F. Morris and Mad Noise Entertainment, the official overture and closing sound and theme song of the Mack Truck Podcast that you hear at the beginning, and the background music in terms of, well, our background music outside of this cool tune that I got going on here right now. Me and Big Johnny out here running the ones and twos tonight. He's a little quiet, and I can't say I blame him. It's a little late, but we had to get in our Monday Night Football, and we will cover Monday Night Football recap on the next pod for the week. I'm gonna hop into it. Also brought to you by none other than the Truth Barbering Shop, 6563 University Avenue. Gary Duke Williams and Chris Fats Dixon, the barber, both barber and beard extraordinaire. So make sure you are getting in your appointments for your barbering and beard maintenance by those two gentlemen, and also known as my two older brothers. I love them dearly. They do amazing work, and even if they were not related to me, would still go to them. They're one of the best in town, so make sure you're booking with them. Make sure you're giving them a shout out. Also, make sure you are liking, sharing, and subscribing. Lame Nation, which is my brother Gary's record label and group. And also make sure you are sharing, and subscribing the Let's Talk Money brand itself. I'm excited for this docket. I'm gonna say that right now. We got a lot going on. So we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna just touch on some things that happened last week, things including the unfortunate high school shooting at Appalachian High School in Winder, Georgia. I'm going to talk about the update of Ashlyn Watkins. Some of this, like I said, I do believe some of this I did cover last show, but we're going to make sure that you have not missed a thing in terms of the radio and podcasting content. So we're going to hop into it, going to get into that. Like I said, Appalachian High School shooting, the update on Ashlyn Watkins, the star guard for Dawn Staley's South Carolina Gamecocks. I'm also going to go over, obviously, NCAA football recap, the Mack Truck watch list for college update, WNBA recap, NFL recap, news notes, and the latest set of news and notes as far as the watch list, things like that. Also going to preview the Pass the Rock episode number 2. Again, that'll be aired and such tomorrow. I'm excited. Going to be great. I'm also going to do some WNBA recap as well as a little bit of NFL recap. So we're going to get started here. I'm excited. Like I said, thank you for joining me. For those of you, again, who missed out, we had the second edition of the Sports Card Showcase presented to you by the Card Traffickers of Instagram. That's traffickers with a Z, not an S, because we don't do things normally here. So if you missed that, you missed a good one. Not as much of a turnout as we had at the beginning of summer, but that's also because college football is a thing, and sometimes when we schedule these things, it happens to be sometimes in the middle of some very important college games, and that's okay. But just know, there will be more. I can't give you dates, can't give you specific times, but I can tell you that there will be more. So make sure you're staying tuned for that. Like I said, myself and EB, as far as the overall flow, like I said, pretty quiet. There was lots of traffic both days as far as just, people coming in, mingling, hotel guests, things of that nature. Made some sales, made some people, did some cast. It was fun all the way across the board, just like we always do, because y'all know how we do. We try to create a fun opportunity any chance we get anywhere we are. So we are going to hop into it. And like I said, some of these are from just late last week or early into last week, as we are just giving you the content for our show. So we are going to hop into it. The unfortunateness that was the Appalachian High School shooting. This comes to you via the NewYorkTimes.com and Christina Morales. 2 students and two teachers were shot at the high school in Winder, Georgia, and at least 9 of them were injured. Reported as the deadliest episode of school violence in state history for the state of Georgia. Authorities identified the dead students as 14-year-old Mason Schermerhorn and 14-year-old Christian Angulo. The 2 educators that were identified were Richard Aspinwall and Christina Amiri. So we will give a moment of silence to those individuals who have lost their life in such a tragic way. Thank you for that moment of silence. Our condolences and positive vibes go out to the families of those 4 individuals that had their lives taken in such a gruesome manner. It was also reported by law enforcement officials said that all of the victims that were taken to the hospital were expected to make a full recovery. Now, as far as the gunman whose name to this day, as far as right now, as I'm giving you this information on the podcast, authorities identify the 14-year-old shooter as a student of the high school and will be charged with the murder. The students heard gunfire as they were barricading themselves inside of classrooms. And that's
something that you never want to end up dealing with or incurring as far as physical tragedy, shootings, things like that. And life is entirely too short for those of us just to hold grudges or anything like that. So if you have a grudge with somebody, if you're, upset with somebody, do your best to try and whether it's bury the hatchet or at least have a conversation in some way, shape, or form, because you never know when your life is going to be taken. You never know when something can just switch at the drop of a hat. So, like I said, let's just make sure we're taking care of each other. And unfortunately for this young person who has committed such an egregious crime, will now, unfortunately, because of choices they made, things that was going on in their life, they felt the need to take the lives of other innocent people. And it's just kind of a hard thing to wrap your head around. And kind of like I say every time we have to speak about these really gruesome subjects, things like that. Anybody in any kind of situation, please don't be afraid to reach out to me. Don't be afraid to call me, text me, shoot me a message on Facebook. If you find the email on the pod line, as far as your numerous ways of finding our broadcast, don't be afraid to email it. I'm here for anybody, whether you want to talk, whether you need to listen, whether you need somebody just to yell and scream at for absolutely no reason. I would much rather be that outlet for somebody, and whether it's somebody I know completely all the way around or somebody that I just met, just know that there are people out there that care. There are entities out there that care. And it is okay to reach out. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's taken me years to realize you can still be vulnerable and still be a very strong individual on one side or the other. Letting people's opinions of how you feel or how you think you should see yourself is just, it's something that happens to everybody, but it's not something that you have to keep using your headspace and mental stability for. So like I said, anybody that needs a friend that's, thinking about doing anything crazy, anything, they just can't wrap their mind around something, having trouble process, please feel free to message me and I will be there for you. You can tell me as little as you want. You can tell me as much as you want. I am a locked cabinet. I will not speak unless told otherwise, as far as personal information and things like that. So just want to let you guys all know that I am here as an outlet, not just as a content creator, podcaster, salty one, however you see me. I am also here as a human being and somebody that cares about the generalized well-being of folks. So we're going to hop into our next thing here on the Mack Truck Podcast. Again, you can find us on Facebook and StreamYard as far as our live video content. As far as the podcast and radio content, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify for podcasters, iHeartRadio, and numerous other sites. We also do have an Instagram. Again, just make sure you search The Mack Truck Podcast, THEE Mack Truck Pod, all in one word. We're going to get into it even more, guys. Like I said, we got a lot of topics, a short time, so we're going to hop into it. For those of you who were with us a couple episodes ago, I talked about the situation with star basketball player from the University of South Carolina Gamecocks, national champions, and Ashlyn Watkins, and an update from Naomi Popa of WIS News 10 and WISTV.com. For those of you who don't remember, Ashlyn Watkins was charged with assault, battery, and kidnapping. Had gotten into an argument with a female juvenile at a campus-affiliated apartment complex at 650 Lincoln Street in South Carolina, right around there on campus. An off-duty officer, found the victim being restrained by Watkins and being restricted from jumping over the ledge of the parking garage at the apartment complex. In the parking garage, the victim essentially told police that Watkins had hit her multiple times, then later said Watkins never touched her at all. Per the school policy, and this is the update part as far as what we didn't know before when we first broke this news to you, as far as
the content is concerned. Per school policy, any athlete that's arrested is suspended, but no one could confirm specifically if Watkins was suspended. Then, prior to the WIS newscast or later last week, 2 representatives of the University of South Carolina confirmed Watkins' suspension was lifted. So there's just a little bit of misconstruity, a little bit of mixed information as far as the victim essentially telling law enforcement that Ms. Watkins had placed her hands on her multiple times, then turn around and saying that she did not do such a thing. And then what seems to be a little bit of confusion of whether or not Watkins was suspended. But according to our news sources here, again, that's WIS 10 News and WISTV.com, Naomi Popa. So still a little bit to unpack here. So Ashlyn Watkins' court date, I believe they said, was set for October 25th of this year. And if my memory serves me correctly, that's at the very start of the NCAA college basketball season. So we will check back for more details on that as we get them. Moving on into the next thing on our docket here. NFL news and notes and recap. So listen, I'm going to just tell y'all this right now. I'm so glad that sports in general is in full swing. I can't even begin to explain to y'all how excited I am. And the fact that I have a full docket, like more than a full docket. So now I have to, move in and maneuver and all kinds of things just to make sure that I'm giving y'all a little bit different content each time, or a little similar in different ways. Y'all know the drill. Anyway, we're hopping into it. I'm excited. Listen, I'm going to start out with NFL news. Dak Prescott got paid. Go off, Dak. Listen, for those of you who have been following this very strange saga in terms of off-season contracts and things like that, specifically with the Dallas Cowboys, I feel like in order for the Cowboys to get to a spot that they had with Dak as far as yesterday, they had to get to a spot with CD. CD had to get paid first, and then Dak, and then Michael will be, I believe, the last person to be paid. They had to literally, what's the word I'm looking for? Essentially, Dallas was waiting to see what Justin Jefferson's contract was going to be, and hopefully to find something very close or similar that would make CD happy, and that would, kind of not really kind of, but would appease the CD Lamb camp, his agents, things like that, which was a thing. So they paid him, and now Dak Prescott, who now has signed a 4-year extension with the Dallas Cowboys, $231 million guaranteed, and then $240 million year, like as far as basically $240 million on a 4-year extension with $231 million guaranteed. This information just specifically about Dak comes to you from Todd Archer via ESPN staff writer. And now Dak Prescott is the highest paid quarterback in NFL history, and rightfully so. And here's something that I really kind of didn't have too much of an issue with as far as people asking me. I've had so many people ask me how I feel about this. And I said, frankly, I'm glad it happened. I'm glad that Dak and Jerry and Steven and the Cowboys front office were able to come to a number to appease everybody. What are you going to do with that number now? What are you going to do with that motivation? And he went out and balled yesterday. We're going to get to the NFL recap here in just a second once we get through all the news. And people were asking me how I feel. And then somebody brought up a really good point. They were asking me, they were making a statement and asked me a question. They said they understand Dak being paid more than Trevor Lawrence, but what did Dak do to be paid more than Joe Burrow? I said, well, that's an easy question. I said, Dak has been more durable than Joe Burrow. And I love me some Joe Burrow, and that's no knock on him. But unfortunately, I'm not going to say it seems like, because I mean, he has unfortunately been hurt a lot since his rookie season. In fact, I'm almost positive that Joe Burrow's rookie season, he tore his ACL and then tore something else last season and then something else in between those two. So, and essentially, as an athlete of any kind, whether it's on the semi-pro level, AAA, minors, G League, the best ability is availability. Outside of the ankle break that Dak had in 2018, 2019, somewhere in there, he had the random thumb surgery and he was out for a month. Outside of that, he hasn't been hurt. Obviously he's been banged up, but hasn't really been out for a lengthy amount of time since the ankle break and the random thumb surgery on his throwing hand from last year, once he made a pass and doinked his hand on somebody's helmet. The fact of the matter is, the best ability in sports and really the real world, I suppose, the best ability is availability. Unfortunately, Joe Burrow, who has battled many injuries, and he's still a dog. Listen, Joe Burrow's still a dog, but when it comes to the world of contracts in sports and everybody trying to make money and everybody trying to make their organization, whether it's NFL, MLB, WNBA, NBA, racquetball, knitting, dog food contest eating, hot dog contest eating, the best ability is availability. And that, to me personally, is why I feel like Dak Prescott has earned the contract that he now attains as far as what he received last year, or yesterday rather, and mind you, just 4 hours before Cowboys kickoff in Cleveland against the dog pound that was the Cleveland Browns. And people are like, okay, well, he can't win the postseason. I mean, he's 1-3 since McCarthy has joined the head coaching reins. I mean, that's a conversation we'll get to another day as far as coaches on the hot seat, programs on the hot seat, things like that. Fact of the matter is Dak Prescott has some of the best, if not the best, in-season stats, regular season stats in football currently as it stands. Outside of the fact that right now we're just into week 1. But if you statistically look at what he has done from 2023 and before into his first couple, 3-4 seasons, he has had some of the best in-season stats. It's just now we got to get over that hump of the postseason. We got to get over the 1996 stigma, and we got to get over we have 5 rings. Yes, we have 5 rings, but we haven't had any since I was 4 years old. I'll be 33 in January. So do your math. Fact of the matter is Dak got paid. CD got paid. Next person on the list as far as the Dallas Cowboys are concerned is Micah Parsons. And I think that he's going to end up being one of the highest paid, if not the highest paid edge rusher. And he definitely deserves it. That man, I feel like at times has put his defense on his back, put the team on his back when he needs to in crunch time. Very much like an Aaron Donald without the Super Bowl championship. And obviously, those random Dallas fans are going to be like, oh, it's our year. Listen, shut the hell up. Not every year is Dallas's year. Can we at least make it to, week 5 or 6 before we just start hauling all this random ass stuff? It's so agitating. Fact of the matter is, Dak Prescott got paid. Big shout out to Dak, and big shout out to Jerry Jones for finally getting the damn thing done. And listen, I have no problem saying it. This is my platform, my show. And with all due respect, I have nothing but respect for the Joneses as far as Jerry and Steven and the front office for the Dallas Cowboys. But it took y'all damn long enough. Like, anybody that knows me knows that I am not a huge fan of some of the decisions the front office of the Dallas Cowboys makes, because they just seemingly enough always want to be in the damn news. Just always think they got to be the center of attention. How about you be the center of attention with the way you play football? And that's already a thing. But y'all adding all this extra, back and forth with the mouthing. No, y'all doing too much. Let y'all team speak for you. Stop trying to speak for the team. I mean, multiple players have come out and said, I'm not worried about what so-and-so says from the front office. Dak even says, I'm not worried about what Jerry Jones says at this point in time prior to this contract ceiling deal. So let's, I don't know, maybe button up the mouth a little bit. Like, let's let the players do the talking. You're so about the players this, the players that, then stop doing all the extra stuff and let the players do the extra stuff. That's what you paid them. millions of dollars for us to do the talking for you as far as the on-field play. So, like, don't do too much. Anyway, fact of the matter is, moving on into more NFL news and notes just from the weekend and closing out last weekend. Patrick Surtain, the second, also gets a 4-year extension with the Denver Broncos at $96 million. And at that point was the highest paid DB. And now you have Jalen Ramsey, who is now the highest paid cornerback in the NFL with a 3-year extension for $72.3 million for the Miami Dolphins. And listen, I love me some Jalen Ramsey, man. And honestly, I really like me some Patrick Surtain. I mean, the fact that he's now paired with the rookie star in his team right now, as far as Bo Nix, who played his ass off yesterday and damn near won the game. Like I said, we're going to get to that in a little bit. And some of the stats, as far as our watch list, things like that, outside the Dallas Cowboys, we're going to have most of those stats on Pass the Rock tomorrow. So make sure you're tuning in for that, making sure you are getting ready to tune in, because Pass the Rock ain't going nowhere. And I'm going to just listen. I'm going to just let it out right now. Pass the Rock is coming basketball style too, for the record. So stay tuned. You're going to have the 3-Man Weave podcast. You're going to have the Mack Truck podcast. You're going to have Pass the Rock football edition and Pass the Rock basketball edition. So get ready, because your fall of sports content, as far as not on a national level, but slightly on a national level, is going to be more jam-packed. Literally, I'm for it. You're for it. If you're not for it, sorry about it. But we're going to move on into the next thing here. Tyreek Hill, and this comes to you via Jeff Darlington of ESPN. So Tyreek Hill was pulled over yesterday just outside of Hard Rock Stadium, yesterday being Sunday morning. If you're listening to this now, if you're listening to the playback, it'll probably be Tuesday or Wednesday. So Sunday, early Sunday morning, Tyreek Hill was pulled over just outside of Hard Rock Stadium, again, going into the stadium to get prepared for the Miami Dolphins game. Got into a verbal spat with a police officer who didn't like the tone Hill was using, then placed him in handcuffs and placed him face first on the ground. He was later released and then cited for reckless driving. Other players were pulling into the stadium and stopped to address the issue. I also saw today that there was over just about 86 minutes of camera footage from a police officer's camera. So we'll wait to see if any other updates come from that. I did also see an interview that was aired today. I'm not sure if the interview was today or was yesterday, but Tyreek Hill did mention that he thought there may have been a little bit of, how can I place this? I'm just going to say it. In a nutshell, he basically said that he feels like there was a little bit of implications due to the color of his skin, and you never want to assume that, but I can completely see why he would think such a thing. But, we also don't know the context of how Mr. Hill was speaking to the officer. We don't know the context of how the officer was delivering his direction and things like that. The fact of the matter is, Miami Dolphins staff were able to hop in and fairly de-escalate the situation as much as they could. Tyreek Hill also received 2 citations, one for careless driving and one for a seatbelt violation. So we're going to wait to see on that. Some of the other things that I did read and listen to via Jeff Darlington and Tyreek Hill on ESPN, things like that. That Tyreek Hill was considering litigation of some kind. So we will look forward to seeing what other things come about this. Just judging from the interview that I saw him do yesterday, just after the incident, after the game, I could tell that he was genuinely kind of pulled back from it, just kind of trying to figure out what was what, trying to process everything. I'm not condoning anything that he did. I'm not condoning anything that was said, because we can't really do that, because one, we are not people to be judging others if we are not perfect ourselves, number one. And number two, we weren't there physically at the situation. We can only go off of reports and teammates and Tyreek Hill himself. And if the other officer the officers involved rather come out, make statements, things like that. Fact of the matter is, Mr. Hill, you got to slow down a little bit. If you getting pulled over because you driving crazy, slow down, homie. And to the officer, was placing him face first on the ground in handcuffs really necessary? While yes, anything over 20 miles an hour of the speed limit is an arrestable offense, putting him on the ground for possibly having an attitude or coming off a little stern because there could have been confusion or whatever, was it really necessary? Who knows? I'll personally say I don't think putting homie on his face was all that necessary. But again, we don't know the situation. We weren't there physically. Fact of the matter is, Tyreek got to be careful. And I don't really think that the law enforcement down there in Miami-Dade wanted to really go through all of that, because that could have been an entire mess if it would have went further. So, moving on here, gonna do some recap, starting with NFL Week 1 on September 5th. That was Thursday. Baltimore Ravens go into Arrowhead Stadium and almost pull out the win if it wasn't for Isaiah Likely. Just barely getting his foot on the out-of-bounds line, and frankly, I think it's crap because they let other things go and other players do the same thing. Fact of the matter is, you shouldn't, just like my coaches always tell me, never leave it up to the referees or judges. Make sure you solidify the win or the takedown, knockdown, whatever it is. Make sure you solidify yourself. Never leave it in the hands of the judges. That's all I'm going to tell you. Never leave it in the hands of the judges. So make sure you make that thing significant and definitive as much as you possibly can. Not to mention Lamar Jackson may or may not have overthrown some folks, and listening to the interview, the post-game interview he did, he even stated that he did not see Isaiah Likely coming on the other side. But I feel like as a receiver, if you are open and you see that it could end up being trouble, cut your route short. Make a play. That's what you get paid millions of dollars for. But at the same time, as a quarterback, as a leader of the offense, and a captain of the team, you have to set up your players for that opportunity. Now, with that being said, Derrick Henry did Derrick Henry things for being on a new team. He balled out. I've loved Derrick Henry since he was smashing folks at Alabama. Derrick Henry is probably one Alabama Crimson Tide member outside of Nick Saban that you'll never hear me troll about, you'll never hear me talk about, Derrick Henry did Derrick Henry things, but Lamar Jackson did more Lamar Jackson things. Fact of the matter is, this game stat, again, brought to you by ESPN.com and the score stat list on ESPN. Lamar Jackson, 26 for 41, 273 yards, 1 touchdown. Lamar Jackson, 16 carries, 122 yards. Isaiah Likely, 9 receptions, 111 yards, and 1 touchdown. Stats for the Chiefs are as follows. Patrick Mahomes, the second, 20 for 28, 291 yards, 1 interception, 1 touchdown. Isaiah Pacheco, who did the damn thing. Listen, Isaiah Pacheco had himself a day. As well as Xavier Worthy, who had 2 tutties as well. Isaiah Pacheco, 15 carries, 45 yards, 1 touchdown. And Rashee Rice, who seemingly enough seems to be back on the team with what we know right now, with no legal implications currently at this time. Now, obviously, things can change between the time you listen to this and the time, the national sports cycle seems to reset itself every day. Rashee Rice, 7 receptions, 103 yards. Now, being just a player and a fan, nothing would please me more than to see the Chiefs lose. But when you are a well-oiled machine and you know what you're working with, I have nothing but respect for it. Outside of just being a fan and wanting to see every other team lose but my own, which really, unfortunately, just never seems to work out in my favor sometimes. Fact of the matter is, the Chiefs did what they needed to do to win. Team stats in terms of the Ravens and Chiefs are as follows. Ravens had 452 total yards of offense, 1 turnover, 25 first downs, and time of possession was in their favor at 33 minutes and 43 seconds. Chiefs stats are as follows to close out this part of the NFL recap. 353 yards total on offense, 1 turnover, 21 first downs, and 26 minutes and 17 seconds of total time of possession. So again, just like I always say when we do our stat lines for all of our sports that has stat lines and time of possession, things like that, just because you have the ball longer doesn't necessarily mean you win. But just because you have the ball less doesn't necessarily mean you lose. And in this case, the Kansas City Chiefs had the ball the least amount of time and got the W. Move on to the Friday night game. And I'll say this right now. Outside of the fact that I really wish both of these two teams would have freaking lose, I watched this game from kickoff to triple zeros in the fourth quarter. This damn game was a game. And unfortunately for the Green Bay Packers, they did drop this one in Sao Paulo to the Philadelphia Eagles, 29-34 in favor of the Eagles. Jordan Love, who also is out for about 3 to 4 weeks with a sprained MCL. For those of you who did not get to watch the game on Friday night, Jordan Love did get hit right towards the end of the third quarter, I believe. And some were saying that it could be an ACL. Some were saying it could be something a little bit lower grade. As it turns out, again, via ESPN.com and Adam Schefter, it is a sprained MCL, and he being Jordan Love, is out for just about 3 to 4 weeks. So Malik Willis will step into his place until then, or until they possibly pick up somebody like Ryan Tannehill, or maybe a Fitzmagic. Can you convince Ryan Fitzmagic to come out of the TV booth? A little bit of a stretch, but you never know. You really never know with these type of things. Anyway, moving on to our individual stats here for this Packers-Eagles game from Sao Paulo on the 6th, which was last Friday. Jordan Love, 17 for 34, 260 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Josh Jacobs, who I never thought in a million years, to be honest, would be in green and gold. And Josh Jacobs is another individual from the Alabama Crimson Tide who happens to be on my very highly touted list of individuals that I refuse to troll or talk about. Just a dude, just buries his head, keeps his head down, and just works. 16 carries for 84 yards. Almost literally was on the cusp of getting some rushing touchdowns. You know, sometimes when you switch up play calls, it just doesn't quite go your way all the time. Jaden Reed, 4 receptions, 38 yards and 1 touchdown. Jalen Hurts for the Philadelphia Eagles, 20 for 34, 278 yards and 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions as well. Saquon Barkley as his debut as a freaking Philadelphia Eagle. Listen, the tandem of Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley, and you sprinkle in some A.J. Brown, is scary. Triple threat, if you will. 24 carries, 104 yards, I believe, and 2 touchdowns. And they were angry touchdowns. They weren't just like, oh, we're just going to daze it. No, Saquon was bulldozing folk. But that's what happens when you put in the work and you also squat 700 pounds. Crazy. And as far as our individual stats are concerned, as we're rounding out here, A.J. Brown, 5 receptions, 119 yards, 1 touchdown. Team stats for this game are as follows. Green Bay Packers, 414 yards of total offense, 1 turnover, 19 first downs, and 27 minutes and 13 seconds time of possession. Philadelphia Eagles, 410 total yards. So just literally 4 yards of a difference. Like, that's how close this game was. 3 turnovers total, 25 first downs, and 32 minutes and 47 seconds of time of possession. So in this case, when you have the ball longer, you get the win. Fact of the matter is, moving on into the next parts of our NFL recap here. And like I said, some of these are going to be scores, and a couple of these are going to be stats. I did stats on one game that I watched head to toe, which was the Titans and Bears, and we'll get to that in just a second. Vikings at Giants. Vikings scraped the Giants 28-6 with Sam Darnold at the helm. I think Sam Darnold is starting to get a little bit of his swag back. I think once he gets a couple more games under his belt and being back to being that starting quarterback, that number 1 choice for a team, I think he's going to start to get some of that swag back that he did when he got drafted. And this game, as far as the stats are concerned, we're going to save the stats for Pass the Rack tomorrow, but Bo Nix had himself a game. I mean, he is a rookie, so it was a little bit rough on him. Also rushed for a touchdown, though. They did drop this one in Seattle 20-6, or 20-26 rather, in favor of the Seattle Seahawks. Another game on my list of, as far as PTR and NFL watch list, Arizona Cardinals dropped this one, and a very, very good one, close one on the road in Buffalo, New York, to Josh Allen and Damar Hamlin. Cardinals dropped this one 28-34. Patriots on the road in the land of the Bengal Tigers, that is the Cincinnati Bengals. Grabbed this one, first win for Jerod Mayo, 16-10. And after I saw the clip of them giving Jerod Mayo the Gatorade bath, you know, if you're a shoe freak, listen, I can't get nothing on my shoes, can't crease them. You can get up from the top to the knees, anything from the knees down, we're gonna have a problem. But I was for it. I'm absolutely for it. Moving on into the stats here. Titans on the road in Soldier Field. The number 1 overall draft pick, Caleb Williams. Titans dropped this one, 17-24. And the Titans and Will Levis were out here. They were not to be played with, not to be had. At which point, it almost looked like the Bears couldn't get them. The Bears got him, though, and got him good. Will Levis, 19 for 32, 127 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Tony Pollard making his Titans debut after being on the Dallas Cowboys the past couple seasons. 16 carries, 82 yards, 1 touchdown. And Tony Pollard's touchdown was an angry touchdown. Again, just doing Tony Pollard things and running through folks. Looking like he did at Memphis. Just a little bit bigger and a little bit faster. Calvin Ridley, also seemingly enough, if I remember correctly, making his Titans debut as well. 3 receptions for 50 yards. Moving over to the Bears stat line here. Caleb Williams, 14 for 29 for 93 yards. DeAndre Swift, 10 carries, 30 yards. DeAndre Swift is also an angry running back. I love it. I love me an angry running back. Love me an angry fullback, angry tight end. A big mug running through folk, or a small and nimble mug running through folk like a big person. I'm for it. I am for it. Go off, DeAndre Swift. Come on, DeAndre Swift. I love this for you and me. And round out the individual stats here for this game. DJ Moore, 5 receptions for 36 yards. Team stats are as follows for this game. 244 yards of total offense for the Tennessee Titans, 3 turnovers, 16 first downs, and 34 minutes and 53 seconds in favor of the Tennessee Titans. Moving over to the Chicago Bears, 148 total yards of offense, which I feel like is a little off. So I'm actually going to recheck the number and give y'all an update, but I feel like that's a little off. I don't feel like that's correct. Anyway, from what I have, 148 yards of total offense, one turnover, 11 first downs, and 25 minutes and 7 seconds of total time of possession. Moving on into another game, which I found to be very interesting. I also did stats on this game because I was kind of shocked. Not going to lie. Justin Fields gets the start over Russell Wilson due to a calf injury that Russell Wilson, seemingly enough, has suffered through training camp and preseason. Justin Fields, 17 for 23, 156 yards. Najee Harris, 20 carries, 70 yards. George Pickens, 6 receptions for 85 yards. Moving over into the Falcons individual stats, Kirk Cousins, 16 for 26, 155 yards, 2 interceptions, and 1 touchdown. Bijan Robinson, 18 carries, 68 yards. Ray McLeod, 4 receptions for 52 yards. And big shout out to everybody that we've just talked about, whether it's this game or the past 2. Listen, it'd be a lot out here, okay? Playing football and really any collision sport, contact sport that you have to put pads and helmet on, or you run into each other, whether it's wrestling, boxing, MMA, rugby, soccer, okay, hockey, football, I mean, baseball is a collision sport. I don't give a damn what nobody's saying. Because if I'm coming at you full speed down the first baseline and you're trying to tag me, it's over with. Or if I'm trying to slide into first base and you have this glove, I'm going underneath you and it could cause some things. Fact of the matter is, sports in general are hard on your body. So it's just a big shout out to any pro athlete, any Olympic athlete, Paralympic athlete that has just put their body on the line. Man, big shout out. Moving back into our team stats here for this Titans and Bears game. Titans total offense, 270 yards, no turnovers. That should be incorrect. That should say 2. So we're going to fix that. Either way, 16 first downs for the Titans and 35 minutes and 36 seconds of time of possession. Moving over into the Bears side, 226 yards of total offense, 3 turnovers, 15 first downs, and 24 minutes and 24 seconds of total possession. I just love football so much. I don't know how many times I'm going to say that every time I get on here, but I just love football and I just love sports. Like, I don't feel like I know anything else outside of sports and music and maybe how to troll people, which I haven't really done for a while. So I can't really say I know how to troll folks for real, but it's almost like random bag, you know, you get off it for a while, you fall off a couple times, get back up just like you did it before. Fact of the matter is, moving on into our second to last game as far as our weekend and first part of our week 1 NFL recap here. My Dallas Cowboys got the damn job done in Cleveland. And obviously, I'm going to brag about it because I can. Okay. Number 1, I'm for it. And if you're not for it, I don't care. I didn't ask for your opinion. But I'm also not one of those like I said, I'm not one of those Dallas Cowboy fans who think it's our year every year. You know, I'm not one of those crazy ones. In fact, 90% of the teams that I root for, my fan base drives me nuts. Ask anybody. That includes my Iowa Hawkeyes, that includes the Golden State Warriors, it includes the New York Yankees, it includes the Dallas Cowboys. Okay? And some of y'all are like, oh, why your team's all over the place? First of all, don't worry about why my team's all over the place. Just know that I know a lot about my teams, and probably I know more about your team than you know. So don't question it. Fact of the matter is, Dallas Cowboys got the job done on the road at the dog pound. That is the Cleveland Browns. Myles Garrett, David Njoku, who got hurt, which really sucks because David Njoku is a dog. Myles Garrett, dog. And it was a chippy game. Listen, it was a chippy game, and I was for it, still for it, frankly. Cowboys got the job done on the road, 33-17, being a 2.5-point underdog, which is fair. And I feel like they only gave the 2.5-point favorite to Cleveland because it was in Cleveland. But Dak went off. Dak did Dak things. Dak played like he just got paid. Dak played like he's trying to chase something that the Cowboys haven't had since '96. Now, that's not saying much because it's only won the first game, but it's a game at a time. It's 1 week at a time. Just like we're going to get into college here in just a little bit. Dak Prescott, 19 for 32, 179 yards total, 1 touchdown. Ezekiel Elliott, who did Ezekiel Elliott things and switched back to his number he had at Ohio State, number 15. 10 carries, 40 yards, 1 touchdown. And an angry touchdown at that. Like, looked like prime Zeke, straight out of Ohio State Zeke. National championship in college Zeke. And that big man, CeeDee Lamb, 5 receptions for 61 yards total. Deshaun Watson, 24 for 45. 169 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Jerome Ford, who I now seemingly enough have my eye on, which is wild because, to be honest, I couldn't tell you who Jerome Ford was until yesterday's game. I sure the hell know who he is now. He is absolutely on my radar. That's 90% of these people that I've talked about as far as the running game, angry mugs. Angry mugs. And if you got yourself an angry running back, yeah, I'm hitting that whole hard, and it's going to take a whole bus of folk to bring me down. I've had my days of running the ball. Hoping to get back there here in 2025, to be honest with you. Whether I'm strip sacking the ball to somebody or Blocking for Spider Monkey. Shout out Spider Monkey. Shout out Nebraska Pride. WFA D2 national champions. I decided to do it. And it's not a shameless plug because we the best. Anywho, back to the stats. Jerome Ford, 12 carries, 44 yards, 1 touchdown. David Njoku, before he got hurt, 4 receptions for 44 yards. Team stats are as follows here for this second to last game in our NFL recap. 265 yards total for the Dallas Cowboys as far as offense. No turnovers whatsoever. 15 first downs. 29 minutes and 6 seconds of time of possession. Stats for the Browns. 230 yards of total offense. 2 turnovers. 15 first downs as well. And just a little over a minute more as far as time of possession with 30 minutes and 54 seconds. And finally, rounding out this NFL recap as far as just today's episode, we will have, like I said, we will have the Monday night recap as part of our episode for the next show. The Rams go in to Lions territory and hostile territory at that as far as Matthew Stafford's concerned. And really kind of a hostile game in general because if you know the story between the two quarterbacks, that's Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford. Jared Goff got drafted to the Rams. Matthew Stafford drafted to the Detroit Lions. And essentially just about, 2 seasons ago now, each team flipped quarterbacks. Jared Goff plays for the Lions now. Matthew Stafford plays for the Los Angeles Rams. Fact of the matter is, Rams lost this one in overtime at Ford Field. 20-6. Matthew Stafford, individual stats. 24. I lied. Like I said, sometimes I can't read my own handwriting. Being a lefty sucks, but it's okay. 34 for 49, 317 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception for Matthew Stafford. Kyren Williams, who I also now have my eye on. Kyren Williams is a god. He's a goon. He is him. 18 carries, 50 yards, 1 touchdown. Cooper Kupp, who I'm so glad to see is healthy and just working folk. Just dogging them. Just breaking ankles out here. He's so shifty, it's annoying. I'd be like, how do you even do that? Like, did you get up afterwards? Like, do you still have kneecaps after breaking somebody up like that? 14 receptions, 110 yards, 1 touchdown. And mind you, the Rams also lost Puka Nacua in the first half to a knee injury. And it does also look like there was a sprain of some sort there. I do not have the rest of those notes in front of me, but I do specifically remember seeing today earlier on the numerous sports engines that Puka Nacua is not considered out indefinitely, but is currently, I believe, on a week-to-week basis, just along with Jake Ferguson, who the Cowboys lost right around the same time in the middle of the first half with a sprained knee joint as well. It seems to be a lot of the receivers and tight ends within week 1 have been hurt with knee injuries. Bulletproof knees make you a little bit less in pain, gentlemen. Bulletproof knees. Walk backwards on a treadmill. You got to strengthen up that teardrop muscle between your groin and your kneecap. But sometimes you just get hit awkwardly or you land awkwardly, so I get it. Fact of the matter is, Jared Goff from the Detroit Lions, 18 for 28, 217 yards, 1 interception, 1 touchdown. David Montgomery, who, again, on my list of dogs when it comes to running backs, came out of Iowa State, just a dog. 17 carries, 91 yards, 1 touchdown. Jameson Williams, who has kind of been on my list for just a little bit, not too long, because I didn't quite know if he was a wide receiver or a tight end or a mix of both, which is a thing. It's a thing. There are players like that who can do both things. Travis Kelce, David Njoku, George Kittle, Jake Ferguson, Dalton Kincaid. I mean, I could sit here. TJ Hawkinson, once he gets off the PUP list. Okay. Cole Beasley, when he was playing, listen, if y'all know, you know. Fact of the matter is, Jameson Williams, 5 receptions, 121 yards, and 1 touchdown for that game. And that was the final in OT. Big shout out to everybody that played this weekend. You know, you love to see it. You really do. And I'm here for it. Moving on into the next thing on our dock here. And surprisingly, we're just over halfway done, guys. Just got about 20-ish minutes left, maybe, if that. So let's get to it. WNBA recap. Starting from the 7th. Phoenix Mercury visit the Seattle Storm and lose one on the road. 66-90 in favor of the Seattle Storm. Individual stats are as follows. Diana Taurasi, the GOAT. 18 points, 5 for 11 from the field. 100% from the free throw line at 5 for 5. Jewel Lloyd, 20 points, 7 for 14 from the field, and also 100% from the free throw line at 3 for 3. Rebounds are as follows. Brittany Griner, 8 rebounds, 7 D boards, 1 O board. Nneka Ogwumike, almost the exact same stat line. 8 rebounds, 6 D boards, 2 O boards. And to close out this recap as far as this game, Natasha Cloud, 6 assists, 1 turnover, played 28 minutes. Skylar Diggins-Smith, 11 assists, 0 turnovers whatsoever, played 26 minutes. That's a good game. Some of these I did miss, and I'm kind of salty about it. But, you know, we've been focused on the WNBA for a while, and we're gonna keep being focused on them because that's what we do. We try to focus on as many sports as we possibly can. Moving into the next team here, rather, in our WNBA recap, Minnesota Lynx grab a big one on the road versus the Washington Mystics. The Washington Mystics have been adding pieces, and they have just been getting closer and closer to creating a big win streak. Fortunately for them, Minnesota Lynx snaps their 3-game win streak, get one on the road, 78-71 in favor of the Lynx. Nafisa Collier, 19 points, 5 for 14 from the field, 100% from the free throw line at 9 for 9. Brittany Sykes, 13 points, 6 for 15 from the field, and 0 for 0 at 100% from the free throw line. Rebounds are as follows. Nafisa Collier, 12 rebounds, 9 D boards, 3 O boards. Stephanie Dolson, who's a dog. Such a dog. 7 rebounds total, 6 D boards, 1 O board. To round out this team's game recap, Kayla McBuckets, 4 assists, 7 turnovers, 37 minutes. Ariel Atkins, 4 assists, 1 turnover, 26 minutes. Into the next game, the Las Vegas Aces lose one in New York by 4 points without what should be seemingly enough MVP and Asia Wilson. Asia Wilson was out this game for the first time since 2019, I believe. Looked to be a high ankle sprain of some form, but she was in a boot and was not dressed to play. They did lose this one on the road to the New York Liberty, team with the best record in the WNBA, 71-75 in favor of the Liberty. Kelsey Plum for those Las Vegas Aces, WNBA champions, by the way, for those y'all who forgot. 25 points, 7 for 17 from the field, and 100% at 6 for 6 from the free throw line. Britta Stewart, Big Stewie, 21 points, 8 for 14 from the field, and 85% at 5 for 7 from the free throw line. Rebounds are as follows. Kia Stokes, 9 rebounds, 8 D boards, 1 O board. Big Stewie, Britta Stewart herself again. 11 rebounds, 9 D boards, 2 O boards. And to round out this game recap here, as far as this team, per normal, Kelsey Plum, 6 assists, 3 turnovers, played 32 minutes. Jonquel Jones, 4 assists, 3 turnovers, played 29 minutes. I'm for it. Moving on into the next game here of our WNBA recap. Third to last, which means we have 2 more left. Dallas Wings drop one on the road in Chicago, 77-92 in favor of this guy. Arika Gumbawale, listen, if there's anybody that should be at the top of my dog list as far as WNBA players, it's Arike. It's a fact. 23 points, 8 for 17 from the field, 100% at 6 for 6 from the free throw line. Kennedy Carter, who I'm glad is back off injury because that Chicago Sky needed her to be back. Came back in a big way. 28 points, 10 for 17 from the field, and 85% at 7 for 9 from the free throw line. Rebounds. Kalani Brown. Big Kalani Brown. 6 for 6 Kalani Brown. Out of Baylor Bear system, Kalani Brown. 8 rebounds, 5 D boards, 3 O boards. Camila Cardoso. Also very tall herself at 6'7". Also has a 3 ball. Got in there, got her boards, got it together. 11 boards total, 8 D boards, 3 O boards. And to round out this game recap for the Wings and the Chicago Sky, Satou Sabally, 7 assists, 4 turnovers, played 32 minutes. Kennedy Carter, 6 assists, 3 turnovers, played 32 minutes. Moving into the second to the last game on WNBA Recap here on the Mack Truck Podcast. Again, thank you for listening, if you're tuning in. If you're listening to the playback, I appreciate you. The Phoenix Sun. Connecticut Sun, rather. Phoenix is the NBA team. But they got the same name, so it's easy to get confused. Connecticut Sun grab one on the road in LA. 79-67 over the LA Sparks. Brianna Jones for the Connecticut Sun. 21 points, 9 for 15, 85% from the free throw line at 3 for 4, or 3 for 5 rather. Rakia Jackson, who had herself a game, putting in work, 23 points, 9 for 18 from the field, and 85% as well from the free throw line at 4 for 6. Rebounds, Alyssa Thomas, 10 rebounds, 10 D boards, 2 O boards, and Lee Ure, 8 rebounds total, 6 D boards, and 2 O boards. I'm going to stop right there because Lee has been a sleeper all season, and she's big as hell too, in a good way. Just big and strong, has a nice mid-range jumper, and just goes and plays the game the way they know how to play it, and tries to aid their team as much as they can with what they got. And I swear, when Cameron Brink comes back off of this ACL tear next year, it's about to be balls to the wall for that LA Sparks team. I mean, you have Odyssey Sims on the team. You have Brianna Jones. You should have Brianna Jones. You have Rakia Jackson, who does the exact same thing Brianna Jones does, just a little bit faster. I'm for it. Closing out this stat line for the WNBA recap as far as our second to last game, Alyssa Thomas, 11 assists, 5 turnovers, played 36 minutes. Azura Stevens, 5 assists, 0 turnovers whatsoever, played 16 minutes. Now, obviously, we can't end the Mack Truck Podcast as far as the WNBA recap is concerned without the Indiana Fever. Indiana Fever get one at home in overtime over the Atlanta Dream. And the Atlanta Dream is not a team to be played with. The Atlanta Dream has given everybody fits since before the midway point of the season. They have just continuously found ways to get better, continuously found ways to put balls in buckets and make points. Unfortunately, Atlanta lost this one in overtime, 100-104 to the Indiana Fever. Ryan Howard, 36 points, 13 for 28 from the field, and 85% at 6 for 9 from the free throw line. Aaliyah Boston, career high, 30 points, 11 for 16 from the field, and 100% from the free throw line at 8 for 8. Tina Charles, 12 rebounds, 8 D boards, 4 O boards. Aaliyah Boston again, 13 rebounds, 10 D boards, and 3 O boards. 10 D boards is how you know you're putting in work. Go off, A. Boston. And go off, Tina Charles, because that game, the parts of the game that I did watch had me on my seat. Had me on the edge, and I went for it. I don't like being all upset and stressed over my sports teams. Can't do it. To round out this WNBA recap here on the Mack Truck Podcast, Ryan Howard, 5 assists, 4 turnovers, played 42 minutes. Caitlin Clark, 12 assists, 9 turnovers, 45 minutes, which includes regulation and overtime. Again, Aaliyah Boston, a career high of 30 points. Caitlin Clark, 26 points, 12 assists, which aided in a double-double. And Angel Reese, unfortunately, is now out for the rest of the season with an injury to her shooting hand, I believe, or her shooting wrist. I'm gonna pause this right here for a second. Sorry, Johnny, but I'm gonna pause and say this. I had a very good friend of mine ask me what I thought of Angel Reese self-reporting the fact that she had an injury. And I said, specifically, they asked me if I really thought that they were hurt because they self-reported it, because some players or not even some, but 85% of the time, players self-reporting an injury just isn't quite a thing, or coming completely out with it isn't quite a thing. Now, fact of the matter is just because somebody self-reports something doesn't necessarily make it not true. While I can see why that person was coming from, it throws you off a little bit. But I don't think it had anything to do with them not getting or not being talks for Rookie of the Year type thing. I don't think it has anything to do with that. I genuinely think Angel Reese is hurt. If anybody knows how to analyze shooting motions and playing motions, just normal body mechanics when it comes to sports, her shooting hand is a little off. Outside of the fact that she shoots awkwardly, but she also shoots with her left hand. For those of you who don't know, she is a left-handed shooter, but she writes with her right hand. It's a thing. Fact of the matter is I don't think she's trying to get out of anything. I genuinely think that she is injured. And there are some players that are just like, yes, I'm hurt. And while they don't need to explain anything to us as the general public, as far as, sports fans, casual fans, whatever you want to call it, it's not their obligation to get us to believe them. Obviously, we always want to wait to see, if the team confirms it, coaches confirm it, things like that. But at this point, there's no reason to not believe her. And for those jackasses on my page who laugh at injuries, that's the reason why you're not on my page no more. So stop messaging me. Don't ask me. I don't give a damn what you say about me in your comments. You laughed at somebody's injury. It's not that serious for y'all to be laughing at these athletes' injuries, whether they're kids in college, whether they're young adults just getting into their professional careers, or they're veterans. Don't laugh at injuries, because some dumb shit could happen to you like that. Quite literally, just because you don't play sports, you could have a slip and fall. You could have something happen to you. So maybe don't laugh at injuries. Then don't make yourself look like a mediocre individual, because that's what you did. So shout out to everybody who laughed on my status about Angel Reese, because that's disgusting, and you're a disgusting human being. And I hope that you step on a bunch of Legos and break your toe. That's how I feel. So stay off my page with all that extra stuff and all this. Oh, I'm joking. You don't joke about that. You was trying to make a point. You made yourself look stupid. Do better. Fact of the matter is, I think she's injured. Like I said, obviously we want to wait until until there's a press conference, or a report from, somebody in a big sports engine or a team representative. But at this point, and not that I want her to be injured, because I don't. So let's get that out of the way, because people like to twist words and all that. Didn't say anything like that. But if she can come out and state without, having issue like, yes, I'm injured, I'm going to believe her. That's a thing. Fact of the matter is, we're moving on to our quick college football recap here. I'm not going to get into too much, because I do got to get into some baseball, and then our Pass the Rock preview, obviously, because we already kind of did it. Again, Pass the Rock episode number 2 with EB and Mack Truck, presented to you by the 3 Minute Week Podcast and the Mack Truck Podcast. I'm here for it. You're here for it. I love it. I'm here for it. I love this idea that we came up with. And really, I can't even take credit for it. I can only take credit for being the other half of it. Pass the Rock was all EB. We talk ball all the time. And he was just like, what if we did a spinoff show? And I'm like, okay. To talk to me. What's up, best friend? Let's rap. He said, Pass the Rock, all things ball. Still sports related, but just specific sport right now. College football, NFL. I said, when you want to start? So y'all already know. Now that we have football back in full swing, going to be a little bit more organized. Obviously the first episode is always wild. You're always trying to get things back into containment. Fact of the matter is, moving on into our NCAA recap here. Again, some scores, some stats, mix in between. Kansas State at Tulane gets the win on the road, 34-27. Bowling Green drops one to Penn State, 27-34. Georgia Tech loses a big one and a rough one on the road, 28-31 in favor of Syracuse. Northern Illinois gets the dub in South Bend against those Fighting Irish, 16-14. That game will be highlighted on Pass the Rock, just so you know. So keep that in mind. Moving on. Kansas and Illinois. And this game will also be highlighted on Pass the Rock tomorrow. Kansas drops one in Illinois, 17-23. And now, which is really the unfortunate part for my fan base being an Iowa Hawkeye fan. Iowa State won the Iowa Super Bowl. And listen, and honestly, big shout out to Iowa State because they came in, did what they said they were going to do, and handled business. Now, just because y'all won the Super Bowl in football, don't mean you won the entire series. Let's just keep this in mind. Iowa State fans, y'all have the football trophy right now. There's still men's and women's college basketball, men's and women's wrestling. There's still baseball and softball. Listen, the slate for the Iowa Corn Cyhawk series for the calendar athletic year of 2024-2025 is far from over with. But y'all got a good one. It's not the most important one, so let's get that out the way. But Iowa still owns the series. It's still a Hawkeye state, still a Hawkeye country, but y'all won. And like I said, I can give you props for that. If this were 5 years ago, I'd be cussing y'all a blue moon, all kinds of things. But I tend not to get too upset or too bent out of shape one way or the other with my sports teams, especially when I still play football and some of these sports that I used to get super, super invested in as far as mental space. How can I get super invested in something that I'm still doing? If I'm getting upset, it's because I'm doing that. Like me personally, if I'm getting upset at a sport, it's because I didn't play well, didn't perform well, that type of thing. So fact of the matter is, Iowa State got the job done. Iowa got complacent, and I'm still not sold on this offense only because it was week 2, and we've been taking out the use of the tight ends. I don't know if it's because we're trying to give it a different look, but don't fix it if it ain't damn broken. If you don't start passing to Luke Lachey, gonna have an issue. If you don't start passing to Addison Stringer, gonna have an issue. And I, for whatever reason, have a feeling when Iowa plays Troy this week, because Iowa State has a bye week, which is really early in the season. Fact of the matter is, bye week for Iowa State. Iowa plays Troy in Kinnick Stadium at 3:25 this coming Saturday. And I'm sure Iowa's offense is going to look amazing towards them. And then we start getting into conference play, because after we play Troy, we go to Minnesota. And we mostly all don't like PJ Fleck. So big shout out to PJ Fleck for being, well, a human being, I guess. Oh, and another thing. Just because I'm an a-hole and I can do that because it's my show and I want to. That was for you, PJ Fleck. Fact of the matter is, Rocco Beck, 23 for 35, 272 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Abu Sama III, 17 carries, 58 yards. Jalen Knoll, who's one of Rocco Beck's favorite targets right now. 5 receptions, 133 yards, 1 touchdown. Caden McNamara, 13 for 29, 99 yards, and 2 interceptions. The game at this point was really put on the back of Caleb Johnson, and who had himself a game, mind you. 25 carries, 187 yards, 2 touchdowns, and angry touchdowns, and ripped a 70-yarder off out of nowhere. And I love it. Jacob Gill, 4 receptions, 47 yards. Team stats are as follows for this game. 361 yards total for the Iowa State Cyclones. 1 turnover total, 15 first downs, 30 minutes and 10 seconds of total time of possession. 303 yards for the Iowa Hawkeyes, 2 turnovers, 16 first downs, 29 minutes and 50 seconds of time of possession. Listen. That's a close game. That's literally a 1-point game. Literally 1-point game. Iowa State is now number 21 on the AP Top 25 poll going into their bye week, and Iowa has been bounced, rightfully so. But I don't see them not getting back into it. They just, unfortunately for them, now have to keep being consistent, keep putting offensive points and efficiency on the board. And the consistency is there. It's now just seeing, is it a Cade McNamara thing? Is it a Kirk Ferentz influence thing? Is it what is it? I'm not going to say it's the offensive line, because they kept him pretty clean for the most part. you made a couple terrible decisions, but that comes with the territory of being a captain and being QB1 for any program, whether it's college, NFL, CFL, UFL, XFL, MFL, whatever it is. Fact of the matter is, that's a close game. Iowa has a chance to redeem itself and get back in the win column, go back over 500 against Troy. Troy is 0-2. Iowa's 1-1. Iowa's a 22.5 point favorite. So we expect them to do the damn thing and to get back in the win column, but you never know. But I can't cap them out. Can't cap them out. You can never count them out, especially because of the defense. Defense, it was looking a little bit tired, but that's because, like I said, I think Iowa got complacent. Fact of the matter is, can't get complacent when it's an in-state rivalry, but with the 12-team playoff or the 12-team bracket as far as CFP, I would much rather lose a random one in the beginning. And I'm not saying random as far as like the game itself, because the game itself was important because in-state rivalry, bragging rights, whatever. Iowa State will never have bragging rights. You get bragging rights for one sport. Like I said, y'all have a bunch of other sports in life, so let's not get crazy. Fact of the matter is, great, you won football. You haven't done it since like 2019, 2021, whatever it was. Fact of the matter is y'all did the damn thing, and, I got to give props where props are due. So, again, big shout out to the Iowa State Cyclones. Moving on into our next, and really last, as far as stat line is concerned, EB Thunder Bradfield's Texas Longhorns get the job done at the Big House. And listen, and shout out to Ferg, the third quadrant of our trio. Ferg is a Michigan fan. Ferg is a diehard Michigan fan. Ferg was done with Michigan when Davis Warren overthrew somebody twice. Ferg was done. Fact of the matter is, Quinn Ewers, Texas Longhorns got it done in a big way, 31-12 over the reigning defending champions. That is the most Michigan Wolverines. Quinn Ewers, 24 for 36, 246 yards, 3 touchdowns. Ryan Wingo, 1 carry, 55 yards. Gunnar Helm is a dude, and he's now on my individual watch list. Big old tight end, number 85, 7 receptions, 98 yards, 1 touchdown. Davis Warren for the Michigan Wolverines, 22 for 33, 204 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Donovan Edwards, 8 carries, 41 yards. And the other big old tight end wide receiver combo on the other side of the ball for the Michigan Wolverines. That is Colson Loveland. Had a little bit of a rough game. Not sure if it was quarterback play or just couldn't find those open spots with those big old Texas defenders in front of him. 8 receptions for 70 yards. Team stats are as follows. 389 yards of total offense for the Texas Longhorns. No turnovers, 19 first downs, and 31 minutes and 20 seconds of time of possession for the Michigan Wolverines. 286 yards total offense, 3 turnovers, 13 first downs, and 28 minutes and 40 seconds of total offense for that game. And to round out the college football recap as far as this episode of the Mack Truck Podcast is concerned, University of Albany loses to the West Virginia Mountaineers 14-49 in Morgantown. And to round out that portion, again, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. Got a little bit longer episode, longer docket. Had to cover a lot of things for the weekend. Thank you for joining us. If you don't know how to podcast, bang that follow button. Like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you're telling your friends, family, all the things in between. I appreciate all the love and support. Myself and Johnny, who's messing with my soundboard right now, but that's fine. We love him. Big shout out to Johnny. Johnny, listen, big shout out to you, okay? He don't like to be called out, and I think it's funny, so I have to. But I gotta be careful because I don't really like being called out on certain stuff. So it is what it is, but we love it. I'm here for it. Moving in real fast here into our MLB recap. Chicago White Sox get the job done in Fenway Park. 72 over the Boston Red Sox. Hitting and pitching stats are as follows for this game. All in favor, mostly, for the Chicago White Sox. 12 hits, no home runs, 13 total bases, and 5 runners left on base. Boston Red Sox, 8 hits, 2 home runs, 17 total bases, 4 runners left on base. Pitching stats are as follows for this game. 9 strikeouts for the White Sox, 6 strikeouts for the Red Sox, 83 strikes to 87 strikes in favor of the Red Sox, 8 hits allowed to 12 hits allowed in favor of the White Sox, 1 walk for the White Sox, 2 walks for the Red Sox in favor of the White Sox. Winning and losing pitchers for this game. Fraser Ellard, who's now 500 at 2-2, pitched 2 outs worth of an inning, no hits, 1 earned run, no walks, and no strikeouts. Losing pitcher for this game, Zach Kelly, who's just over 500 at 6-3, pitched 1 outs worth of an inning, had 5 hits, 5 earned runs, 1 strikeout, and 1 walk. Next game on our list here, as far as our MLB docket is concerned, San Francisco Giants visit the San Diego Padres. In-state rivalry, or one of the many. Giants grab this one, technically on the road, still home side though. 7-6. Hitting and pitching stats are as follows per normal. 9 hits for the Giants, 4 home runs, 23 total bases, and 4 runners left on base for the San Francisco Giants. San Diego Padres, 8 hits, 2 home runs, 14 total bases, and 6 runners left on base. Pitching stats are as follows. 4 strikeouts to 14 strikeouts in favor of the Padres. 103 strikes to 98 strikes rather in favor of the Giants. 8 hits allowed to 9 hits allowed in favor of the Giants. 5 walks to 2 walks in favor of the Padres. Winning, losing, and saving pitchers for this game. Winning pitcher, who's now at 4-5, so just under 500, Eric Miller. Pitched 1 inning and 2 outs within an inning. 1 hit, no earned runs, no strikeouts, and 1 walk. Losing pitcher for this game, Joe Musgrove, who is now 500. Pitched 4 full innings and 1 out's worth. 8 hits, 6 earned runs, 7 strikeouts, and 1 walk. Saving pitcher for this game, who now has 7 saves on the season, Ryan Walker. Pitched 1 inning and 2 outs worth of an inning, no hits, no earned runs, no walks, and no strikeouts. Second to last game on our list here, y'all, for the MLB docket recap, whatever you want to call it. I love this for us. Arizona Diamondbacks grab one on the road in Houston. Houston does end up winning the series 2-1, but they get this one as far as the Diamondbacks 12-6. Hitting stats are as follows. 15 hits for the Diamondbacks, 12 hits for the Astros in favor of the Diamondbacks, 4 home runs to 1 home run in favor of the Diamondbacks, 28 total bases to 17, again in favor of the Diamondbacks, 6 runners left on base to 9 runners left on base, again in favor of the Diamondbacks. Pitching stats are as follows. 12 strikeouts to 6 strikeouts, again in favor of Arizona. 110 strikes to 117 strikes in favor of the Houston Astros. 12 hits allowed to 15 hits allowed in favor of the Diamondbacks. And 2 walks to 4 walks, again in favor of the Diamondbacks. Winning and losing pitchers for this game. Kevin Ginkel, who's now 8-3, not even just, but fairly over 500. Pitched 1 full inning, no hits, no earned runs, 1 strikeout, 0 walks. Losing pitcher, the legend himself, Justin Verlander, who is just 3-6 on the season, so just below 500. 3 full innings worth, 8 hits, 8 earned runs, no strikeouts, and 1 walk on the game. And to round out our docket, whether it's MLB, NBA, WNBA, golf, horseshoes, cornhole, hot dog eating, Colorado Rockies grab one on the road. Milwaukee Brewers. Colorado wins the series 2-1. Rockies also get this one on the road 4-1. Hitting stats are as follows. 12 hits to 3 in favor of the Rockies. 2 home runs to 0 in favor of the Rockies. 21 total bases to 3 total bases in total of the Rockies. 10 runners left on base to 3 runners left on base in favor of the Brewers. Pitching stats are as follows. 7 strikeouts to 6 strikeouts in favor of the Rockies. 90 strikes apiece, so even there. 3 hits allowed to 12 hits allowed in favor of the Rockies. 0 walks to 2 walks in favor of the Colorado Rockies. Winning, losing, and saving pictures to round out this docket here on the Mack Truck Podcast. Winning pitcher, Carl Freeland, who's just under 500 at 5-7. Pitched 6 full innings, 3 hits, no earned runs, 4 strikeouts, and 1 walk. No walks, rather. Losing pitcher at 10-8. Freddie Peralta. 4 innings plus 2 outs worth of an inning, 7 hits, 3 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, and 2 walks. And to round out this MLB recap and docket of the Mack Truck Podcast here, saving pitcher, Tyler Kinley, who now has 11 saves on the season, pitched 1 full inning, no hits, no earned runs, 1 strikeout, and 0 walks. I thank you guys for joining me today. We had a lot to talk about. I thought it was going to be a shorter docket. I lied to you. I'm sorry about that, but I'm glad you were here listening and joining with us. I'm here for it. You're here for it. It's what we do. Big shout out to everybody. I appreciate you guys for joining us. Thank you for all the feedback. Thank you for those of you who came out to the Sports Card Showcase 2nd edition at the Hyatt Place Hotel. It was a good time. It's always a good time. Again, if you're not following our affiliates, that is Patton That Whiskey, with Daniel and Jen Patton, The Truth Barbering Shop with Gary Duke Williams and Chris Fats Dixon the Barber, and Beard Extraordinaires. The 806 Sports Radio Show and the Sip Off, both hosted and co-hosted by Megan Price, along with Chopping It Up with Prescott Kelly to be exact. The 3-Man Weave Podcast with EBCB and Big D Money himself. Freddie F. Morris and Mad Noise Entertainment. CCR Webflow Design with Camila Rodriguez. And myself, Mackenzie Brooks, Thee Mack Truck. If you don't know how to podcast, bang that follow button. In the illustrious words of Ellen DeGeneres, be kind to one another. And in the illustrious words of Pat McAfee, be a friend, tell a friend something nice. It could change their life. Goodbye.